This is my second Golisano CEO Symposium. It's always interesting to hear what other CEOs and what other companies are doing, and you're learning a lot about some of the challenges, of the good and bad things that they're doing. Just being able to rub elbows with some very, very bright people is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it last year, and I can't wait to do it again today.
Today at the Symposium, really looking forward just to hearing about the other investments that the group is in and trying to learn from the other CEOs. And I think having time to interact with Tom in a less formal setting than a board meeting or a company review.
I like hearing what the other companies are involved in, seeing if there's any symmetry with us, but just meeting everybody and listening to everybody's experience, especially right now, through what's been going on in the world. It's nice to hear how everybody else has been dealing with that.
I think what I took away from the last symposium and what I'm excited about today is just the diversity of thought and businesses around the room. There's some really, really bright people. Obviously, having Mr. Golisano there and watching the interaction between the different CEOs and learning more about their businesses. And while, as an example, Grand Oaks, they built a great facility down there and run great programs. You wouldn't think that would necessarily apply to the fiber to the home business, but you know, when you think about what they need to do from a hospitality standpoint, making their guests and customers feel welcome, there's a lot that we can take away and learn from that in our own business, and I think that applies to a number of the different CEOs that will be speaking over the next 2 days.
I think, you know, they've added a bunch of companies like that that weren't here last year, so it's really great to see things like growing and expanding. I think, you know, just seeing all the new companies and sharing ideas and seeing how everyone's been doing over the last crazy year. Like, I can't believe it's been a whole nother year of this. It feels like we had the same exact meeting a year ago with the same like precautions and everything. So yeah, like catching up and seeing how everyone's done in the last year will be interesting.
You make new friends, maybe you find new prospects or new ideas from some of your not exactly peers, but the program we have for you today and tomorrow, I think, will be interesting to you. Got a couple of topics that hopefully someday will be in your daily work, liquidation, stuff like that. Right? Yeah.
Yes, that is the goal, Tom.
Here to have you enjoy yourselves while you're here. We have an interesting speaker tonight. Larry Quinn from Buffalo Sabres. I think you'll enjoy what he has to say. Glad to have you here, and glad to see you all. Just talk to you by the telephone once a year is not enough. So, enjoy.
Thank you.
So Dave gave us a little general outline. I'll follow that just to give you guys some perspective. My name is Tom O'Neill. I am the president and CEO of a company called CogniView. We are a medical device that's sitting, one of them is sitting right here. We do cognitive testing. So we test for mild cognitive impairment. Tom has informed me, unlike last year, we didn't make it mandatory for everybody to do it, so nobody raised their hand, right, Tom? This year, everybody has to do it.
Well, between 10 and 10:30.
Yeah, between 10 and 10:30, everybody has to be doing it. So we'll be setting somebody aside, just like we did for the interviews. And you guys.
That we're impaired?
Yeah.
Some of you won't have
Okay, everybody, deep breath. That's not going to happen. We're not going to do that. But honestly, if you want to, you're certainly welcome to take it. We have two devices, CogniView Clarity and Thrive. CogniView Clarity is our device that we use for the MD offices, primary care, internal medicine, neurology, neuropsych, psych. geriatric psych, and then Cognitive View Thrive, which is in all the other non-MD but clinician space, like optometry, audiology, and retail pharmacy. We'll get into a lot more as we go. So why that sensitivity matters, think about this, you're a patient again. Think about it, you're a patient, and Jeff, your doc comes to you. You want them to only catch it when it's something big and dramatic, or do you want them to catch small changes when they happen and they can actually do something about it, right? You don't want to wait for it to be something more dramatic. You want it to be when they can catch it and have something that's sensitive enough to catch it. So that's really the premise for the docs, is to say, hey, sensitivity, the specificity, sensitivity, and retest reliability, which is all part of what we went through with the FDA, matters. And it matters because you want to catch people early if they're having mild cognitive impairment, because we don't diagnose anything, right? We're an assessment tool for the docs. We're an assessment tool, not a diagnostic tool. So we test it so that they can catch it early and they can treat.
It was pretty interesting. So what made me reach out to Tom was, he's definitely got a reputation. So if you're in Western New York, Tom is definitely a great person to know. We got connected through a mutual acquaintance that I got connected to through 43 North, which was, an interesting organization that brought myself and Kick Further up to Western New York. And in the first meeting for Tom, it was, driving, I come from New Jersey, so driving from New Jersey to Rochester on that 6-hour drive, I listened to his book on audiobook, to prep for the meeting. And that made me feel a lot better about the meeting too, because Tom is very much, like in that book, what comes out is that he's very much an entrepreneur, right? Which is something that I appreciate quite a lot.
There have been a lot of lessons working with Tom. I think one of the biggest was, we had received an offer in from a private equity firm, and we spent a lot of time looking at the opportunity to sell. And I think through Tom's patience and business acumen, we decided it wasn't a great time to sell. We stuck the course, and I think that's been better for everybody, because it's been another opportunity to continue to work with Tom and his team over the last few years to grow the business to a point where certainly beyond my expectations, but I think even now the future is brighter than it's ever been.
For me, when it came about and he was interested in being a partner, for me it was learning from his experience. I really wanted to know how to build the business to the next level. What he felt was important might have been different than what I thought was important just starting out. So for me, that was the most important thing.
All right, so great to be back. Bunch of familiar faces, some new folks, but actually familiar faces from another world. So glad to be here. Tom, thanks for having me. Dave for putting it together, and the rest of the team for pulling this thing off. So I'm Jeff Gerstner, founder and CEO of Dynamic OR. We talked about the product last year, so some of you will be redundant potentially, but I think it's going to be interesting because Dr. Dorman's here today, and I'm going to probably call on him a few times to talk about impromptu. I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but talk about sort of the relevance of efficiencies and some of the challenges that the industry is facing, especially with COVID and what we perceive to be post-COVID opportunities or challenges, depending on where you sit in the world. So the things that we had to figure out was, okay, so it's one thing to set up one table one way, but how do we repeat that and allow it so that a surgeon walks into any room that he or she may be working in, and they should have familiarity with what that setup looks like. So we built an app that now houses a library. For Dr. Dorman, it would be all of his procedures at any hospital, okay? And really what we're trying to get to, John, is right to be able to walk in the room and say, this is a familiar setting to me, and not only familiar to John, but familiar to his staff. Again, getting into that idea of repeatability. So there's things that in the industry people think about standardization, and everybody gets contorted. Everybody kind of, oh my God, we don't want to be standard. We want to have individualism, I guess, in the room, and we're actually advocating for that now. So John's scrub tech might be Sally one day and Bob another day. But Sally has a way that's setting up her procedure that she's familiar with, and Bob has another one. But we try to get them together and say, look, let's come to a happy medium here and store it so that John's happy, and then you'll be happy, and everything works. So we're trying to get to a point of being flexible enough to allow it. So we've built thousands and thousands of surgeries into our app, and you know, it's proving itself out to be very, very viable. Again, from the physical, you combine that with the app, and all of a sudden you've got a really interesting new look in the operating room, but it's also much more functional.
What Tom really brings to the table is he's someone who's built his own company, so he understands the challenges and what you go through early on, but he also understands scale and what you need to do to develop the company to the next level. So I think from my seat, I've been in business my whole life, but I've never been in business at the scale that we're going to. And really what Tom brings is a very balanced view. Right? He doesn't get excited with the big wins. He doesn't get upset at the big losses. He looks at it kind of on a longer term. And I think his advice is, you know, stay with it. And, you know, you work through the losses and you can celebrate the wins when you're done. So.